Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer, and in the online studio, we should probably get this studio sponsored. Travis, what do you think? Can we find somebody to do naming rights on this thing?
Might need to call it HVAC shop or a plumbing shop that Roy cares.
Travis Waldstein, Air Serve Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. All right, so what a lot of people are aware that you and I belong to a group called the Council Bluffs Business Connection, which is a wonderful group of people that we give referrals to each other. It's networking. It's get a lot of benefit out of this.
Mm-hmm,
I am wondering if there is some kind of record for how many elections you can lose in a row.
Hey, we're going for it.
Because you are up to set that record if you haven't yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, there's one thing, second place is first loser. When you do it 6 or 7 times, it just becomes a trend, It's kind of like being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan or, an Atlanta Braves fan or a Cubs fan,
No. But the, I think that the point now is to keep the streak going.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's back when I was a senior in high school, a friend of mine named Marshall, we decided that we were going to have a contest to see who could get turned down the most times for prom. And we were tied 2-2, and I was going for a third. So I called up a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. She said yes.
Shit.
I didn't want to go with her.
Oh my God. You were supposed
to. I did. So ended up, I remember everything about that. We had dinner in Atlanta at a place called the Sundial, which is the top of Peachtree Tower, which is that big, tall cylinder, silver-looking building that rotated. So it went around one complete rotation every hour.
Ooh, so it's kind of like Squirrel Cage Jail, just a little bit different.
Just a little bit different, yeah. So what happens is you get up from your table and you go to the center where it's not moving to use the restroom, and you come back out and you can't find your table.
Yeah.
Because it's not moving the whole time.
Wow, that's crazy.
But
that's crazy.
That's my little story. You are trying to set the consecutive election loss streak. So
I think we're voting tomorrow too, if I remember right. So I think that's what they decided. So which I don't care. It is what it is. So, but we're gonna go for it. We're gonna go for second place again because it is what it is. So no, in all seriousness, though, but Council Bluffs Business Connection is part of the chamber. Well, it's a tentacle off the chamber. When we started, well, I wasn't part original founding member, but been a member for oh boy, it's been 10, 12 years now, easily. I wasn't in original, but I started like 6 months afterwards. So great group. It's evolved over the years. We've had people come, we've had people go, lots of graduates in the program, and there's been lots of people nominated. There's been lots of people that I've nominated for and ran against and then lost. So that's even better yet. So I nominate the person to make sure I don't get the job. See, this how this works. So you hire people, you find people who are better than you at doing a certain thing, and you let them do it, and you just sit back and watch, and then you can take credit for it. So
sounds like the Henry Ford School of Business.
Hey,
works for him.
Well, it's too bad he invented Fords, but that's good for him. So, and it's coming from a Chevy guy. So, but yeah, it is what it is. It's a fun group, past business, and it's probably Thursday mornings is probably the one day of the week that I have no trouble going to bed on Thursday morning. So, for the group, it's a lot of fun. Get socialized, get to find out what's going on in the community. Sometimes chamber comes in, sometimes we'll have a speaker come in, but it's a great group. There's about 22, 23 members. We're always, visitors are welcome anytime. So if you want to come down and, someone's got to be the troublemaker of the group, and that would be yours truly. So
yeah, that's true.
So we got all these prom cool and professional looking people, and then you got to deal with Travis, and you just kind of, how does this work? So, but as my wife says, if we weren't married, she wouldn't be friends with me on Facebook. So that should, you should know.
My. So. After all of the chicken houses and garden things that you built for her, and
You know, she reminded me that I act like a 12-year-old, because I once said I act like a 2-year-old. She goes, no, I can't be married to a child, but I can be married to an adolescent. You're definitely an adolescent. I fit that fit that 110%. So you go talk to my kids, they're a lot more proper and professional than I ever thought about being. It's like, what's this? This a suit? You look professional. You know how to dress for the part. It's like,
Oh, I heard that parenting philosophy a while back that kids will always want to be the opposite of whatever their parents are. So you just stay weird, your kids will rebel, and they'll turn out normal, and that's that's how it works.
being weird's all right. So you know, like I said, I love show convention. They'll say a whiteout. One time they did a whiteout where you had to wear this white outfit. Well, I own 0 white shirts, by the way. I have a couple gray Hawkeye shirts. So they had this whiteout, and so I wore this blue or black tank top, and it was a really short tank top with my bib overalls. I thought about cutting them off at the just below the crotch, but I decided I would have a little bit of couth, and but yeah, the gal that arranged this whole deal, I did not win franchise of the year with her on that whole deal, and I'm like, no, it is what it is.
I can remember, well, we both know that my previous employer, and they had this mandatory costume party for Halloween. Everybody had to dress up, and they had people going out spending hundreds of dollars on a costume rental.
Mm-hmm.
I showed up with a piece of notebook paper taped to my chest, and it just had costume written across it. I was like, why am I here? Why have you drugged me out of, I had to go over to Omaha for it, and it was silly,
Yeah.
It was one of those required kind of community builder type things. It wasn't working.
Is that what it was? Well, I could go into that rabbit hole, but I'll leave that one alone since it's a family show. So, but I don't need, nor do I want to get sued. So that would be probably, I'll just leave it at there. So
yeah, no, I get it. So. All right, we should probably talk about something important today.
Yep.
Not Hawkeye baseball. We'll talk.
No, we're not talking that. Lord knows.
Where do you stand right now with apprentices coming through your shop, and as you continue to graduate people and get them all through the training and everything? Where are things at with you right now with that?
Well, we're currently on the HVAC side. We're working through CU Authority on the HVAC side, and we're also on the plumbing side. We're working with Tom Holm. Tom Holm's been a plumber for years. He's been retired, but he's still running in an apprenticeship program, and we have one of our gals in there right now. We're looking, the state of Iowa, it's not it's now the state runs the apprenticeship program, and the state used to be federal, but now it's actually state that runs it. A gentleman by the name of Chris Kula, he lives over in Cedar Rapids. That, basically, if you're going to have an apprenticeship program, it's through the Iowa Department of Labor, and they're the ones that administer, run the are the head of the program, tell you what you need to do and criteria. We're having some conversations right now with that. There's minimum criteria. There's a lot of criteria, but I would like to take it next level, if that makes sense. But like I said, it doesn't have to necessarily just be about Wallstein Plumbing or Air Serv Council Bluffs. I think locally, we have a community college. I know it's trying to do some stuff. But they've had their challenges, and they would admit they've had their challenges with their program. But it's not because of lack of trying, but sometimes it's teachers, sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's people understanding the process. And it's like anything else, when it's fairly new, it's a problem. So, but we're looking at, incorporating, maybe doing something in the house. I would love to get a couple of local contractors that would like to, maybe do something, within the program that wants to get involved with it to help train younger people that are working for them as apprentices, that are wanting to get the education. I think it's that important, and but it's something to where they're learning more than just what a screwdriver is and a screw is the first year, where you can actually really talk about the program, the ins and outs, and put some what I call true fundamentals into it. We do a lot of that here, but we definitely want to do something for our people. But maybe if it's the right situation, if the right people want to get come around it, expand outside of that, and maybe get some collaboration locally. I would love that opportunity to, and it's strictly it's for training, and especially here in Council Bluffs and Southwest Iowa. I think it'd be greatly appreciated. There's other areas of the state that have done it. There's not a lot over here. Of course, I know we get a lot of pull from Omaha, but there's a lot of people that don't go to work in Omaha or aren't in the union in Omaha, that maybe want to be a part of something over here. So, so that's that's really what we're working on. We've built our training lab in house, which is pretty exciting for us. We have a classroom in the room I'm sitting in. We can fit 24 people, and have training in here. 24 people would be a lot of people to teach, but we got some lab stuff. We got simulators. We got different stuff we could work on. We got some VR stuff, virtual reality stuff that we could do with some of the equipment we do. And the more we can get in apprentices' hands to make them so they understand the fundamentals and foundation, and give them something, that's not only a car, but maybe a little bit more, I'm all about. When it comes to licensing, I've gotten to a point to where I don't want to say fanatical, but, and I will never fault anybody that's trying to do stuff the right way to get your license. But I also expect people to understand the process and to do follow through and do it the way they're supposed to be. And there's some people think, well, I don't need to have a license to do this and do that. I says, well, how are you getting trained? How do you know? And there's more than one way to learn. There's military. If you have family in the trade, there's different stuff like that. But there's what we run into, we see stuff out there where people that aren't trained, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And they're out, collecting real money to do this work. I mean, there's been a couple contractors, plumbing contractors over here from Omaha that are not licensed, not registered with the state, come over here taking big money, and then the work they're doing is definitely below standards, to a point where the state's had to get involved, attorneys have had to get involved to, have that discussion with them. And, that becomes lose-lose. That gives our industry, or industries, I should say, a bad name, that there's people out there who do that. They're more interested in chasing a dollar than doing work right. Now, that's not to say we don't ever make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but there's a difference between making a mistake and ripping people off. When you, to give you a great example, you do a $30,000 bathroom job and the toilet flange is 1.5 inches off the ground, and you don't run any vents up through the roof, and, you shorted the pipe 4 foot short of going to the outside, and, you're out in the yard digging, and you hit a city wall, you do some other stuff. And it's obvious like whoever did it, A, didn't know how to run a backhoe, but B, doesn't understand your basics as far as plumbing, how stuff's supposed to work, how vents work, how to size this stuff, what the requirement is. But, it says their name on the side of there, so that means they're a professional. And, unfortunately, the city tries to enforce it, but the state of Iowa took it out of their hands, when they came up with the state licensing, and there's not enough enforcement around the state on the HVAC and plumbing side. Plumbers is totally different, or electricians is totally different ballgame. When they gave the state licensing, the Department of Public Safety was smart, and they got their inspection requirements in. What they did, the paperwork, the Plumbing Mechanical Systems Board waited a year. There happened to be an election. Well, the guy that they had on board with it lost, and so when that happened, kind of some of the traction that had been made had been falling behind. But, my position is, for what we pay for fees, what we pay for licensing, for what we pay into the state. What are we getting for that? And where are they at in this inspection process? And I think it would do everybody in the industry good if we had inspectors around from the state, if they're going to enforce it, make sure people are carrying cards, make sure they're doing stuff to standard. I've just seen enough stuff out there. I'm really tired of it.
Are you seeing stuff that is older that you're coming in and fixing, or are you seeing new stuff that is still going on today?
It's both. It's both. And you walk in on stuff. We had a water heater here about 3 weeks ago, tankless water heater. The way they vented it, some guy piped it outside underneath a deck by a tree. There was recirculation going on with it, and the way he gassed it was totally wrong. This is a guy that claimed he had a journeyman license. He didn't even have a master license. He had a journeyman's license, which means he had to work under a master. He didn't. There were some other words that were said about the whole deal, and and it's just like, I don't know, if you're going to put your name on something, I mean, to me, you want to do it correctly. Sometimes, the only thing the person can afford to is Band-Aid. It happens. I get it, but you want to do right by people. And I don't know, I've just seen enough stuff where I'm tired of the industry having a good name because people aren't doing stuff, do it above board. You're not pulling your permits. You're not doing things you need to do. And they think they're doing everybody a favor. And all you're doing is throwing the industry in the toilet, as far as I'm concerned. But, and that's why I've kind of gotten to be semi-militant. I don't want to be the police per se, but if you're going to come around here and you're going to take money out of my mouth, if you're licensed and you're doing whatever, I'm all for good competition. There's a lot of good contractors, but if you're not licensed, if you're not bonded, if you're not insured, and you really have no business be doing this, and you're taking money out of my pocket or other people's pockets who know how to do this stuff right, I'm going to have a problem with you. And if you don't like it, tough shit. I'm going to call it for what it is, So my address is 3319 Nebraska Avenue, Suite 2. If you want to come down and visit with me about it, I'd be more than happy to have a discussion with you on it. So
yeah, I'm not sure that you realize just how far reaching this thing is. So
I don't care. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. I really don't care, when it comes to that. And I understand it's far reaching, but it's the reality. I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect. Nobody's perfect, but there's too many good contractors that spend time, money, resources, and labor, to get people trained to help them move on, to have people that, don't. The other thing that kind of drives me nuts is if you're a contractor, I don't care what trade it is, you're a contractor and you've got 3 or 4 guys working for you, and you have an opportunity to help guys get trained, but you'd rather treat them as a laborer, not put any investment into them, and work them like a mule until you've got no use for them anymore. Who you helping? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And there's some of that goes on too. I have a problem with that, but I think part of it is I think sometimes people have a hard time standing up for them and say, hey, I'm worth more than that, so yeah, it's, it sounds terrible, but, unfortunately, there's standards in everything we do. They don't just hand everybody a driver's license. They try to let everybody vote, but they don't let everybody vote. There's certain things you have to have a requirement. If you want to own a bar, you have to have a liquor license. You can't have certain things. There's reasons why there are laws and there's stuff in place because somebody was a dumbass at one time and did something stupid. And either killed somebody or cost somebody a ton of money. And there's a reason these things are in place. And you can say it will never happen to you. The reality is you don't know. And until you know, it's a problem. So,
well, and I'm not, it could be a manpower issue that, trying to police this kind of thing. How do you, are you spot checking to make sure that people are, have all the correct licenses and the correct permits and everything? I don't know what the answer is, but you are right that, if the industry is not going to police themselves, then that's when government entities step in. That's how it works. So if you're not taking care of it yourself, you're just inviting that oversight.
Well, I will tell you, the city of Council Bluffs and actually Pot County does a pretty good job of it if they know what's going on. But since, they take the money for permits and inspections when jobs are done, you have to get registered with the city as a contractor or with the county as a contractor. That's pretty standard. But since they took the licensing out of the city's hands, the only time they're going to enforce it is when somebody makes a complaint. That becomes a state level. And so, they put this enforcement in there, they put this in there, but then they have no manpower, to enforce it. It's kind of like, and listen, I grew up at a family farm in Northwest Iowa. I love farmers, but you know what? Farmers get to get away with a lot of shit because they're farmers. It doesn't mean they know what the hell they're doing, but because they're farmers, they get exempt from it because the Farm Bureau or whatever organization's out there is going to, protect them because they're doing whatever. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that gets looked the other way, and it's not just in Iowa, it's other states too. But it just, until somebody gets killed, it's like, well, shucks, we could have done something different. Oh yeah, we did, but we gave them an exemption because they do X, Y, and Z. Well, tell that to a grieving wife when her husband died because he was wiring something and the wire touched the metal building and he got friggin' shot and fell off the ladder and broke his neck. Because he could do it himself, supposedly. I don't know. It's great till attorneys and judges get involved or people die, but then all of a sudden it's somebody else's fault. So,
well, I'm guessing that you've been feeling a little bit about this here recently. So,
no, not at all, not at all. So,
but you're not wrong, and that's the thing is that it's not. It's important to do things the correct way, and these what somebody may consider to be an unrealistic or unreasonable regulation, it's there for a reason, and whether or not you like it doesn't mean whether or not you need to follow the law.
Yeah, well, and the law it comes down to integrity, and my definition of an integrity is basically this: what do you do when no one's looking?
Well, yeah,
no one's there, no one's checking out.
Same thing.
And that tells a lot about a person. If you're the guy that's going to half-ass it, or going to say guy, gal, whatever, it's going to half-ass it because nobody else is looking, and you kind of look the other way. Well, there's reasons why. I'm not going to sit there and tell anybody they're wrong, but then, don't complain if something comes back later. Insurance is a great example. Insurance company says, well, when this was built, was there a permit pulled out? Was this done? Well, it wasn't. Well, we're not going to insure it, or we're going to depreciate X, Y, Z because you didn't follow the code, you didn't follow the law, whatever. And people get bent. Well, I could do it myself. Well, obviously something didn't happen. So, in a country where I believe we have rights, I also believe you have responsibilities. And
that's very true.
And a lot of people, well, I have rights and blah, blah, blah. It says, well, where's your responsibility at on this whole deal? And everybody likes to shut the responsibility part because that's the part where the rubber meets the road.
I'm not sure where to go with that.
And listen, sometimes I'm the most irresponsible person I know, especially when I talk Hawkeye football.
I've got all kinds of things running through my head right now that I can't say. So,
no, that's all right. So did you have a good Memorial Day? I know by the time this show's Memorial Day, it'd be a week out, but did you have a good Memorial Day?
Well, let me tell you what I did on my Memorial Day, and this actually ties in with my own podcast series. I do a daily, do 2 daily podcasts, but I spent Saturday of Memorial Weekend doing a tour of the county parks.
Oh.
So, we have 5 county parks in Pottawatomie County. And I went to each one, shot video, took some pictures, and I've been running a series this week on the history of these parks. And I've learned a lot that what is actually going on. I didn't know all of the history with Old Town Park in Macedonia. I didn't know.
Oh, really? That's kind of neat. That's kind of a neat old park down there.
Yeah, and why it's called Old Town Park, because that's where Old Town Macedonia was.
really down in
That
the bottom, and then they moved it
right,
up the
that's where
hill.
it used to be. And then when the railroad came through in the late 1800s, they moved it.
Up the hill. I
Uh,
did not know that. So
and it's just they now have campsites there that
yeah.
are just a couple of years old. I think they've got electrical sites, they've got water there, so and not a lot. And
Mhm.
when I was there, you would think that Memorial Weekend the campgrounds would be packed. Nope,
That wasn't.
they weren't.
Yeah.
The only campground that I found that was full was at Arrowhead.
Oh, I'm not surprised there. Yeah, that's always
Because
full.
that it's got the lake, it's got the fishing, it's got all of that. Even Hitchcock was not full.
Really?
That surprised me. That really
Wow.
surprised me. Now, the weather wasn't perfect. It wasn't the greatest weather, but still, out at Old Town, maybe half. At Botany
Mhm.
Bend, maybe half. Botany Bend's
Yeah.
a fantastic campground.
It is. Yeah. When my boys, when they were young, went to HST, the Cub Scouts in Avoca, they did a lot of stuff with
Mhm.
the park out there, spent a lot of time. They used to do the tree, tapping the trees, and there's some different stuff. And of course, they had the, was it elk they had out there or buffalo?
Yeah, the elk
a
are
little
not
bit.
there right now, but the buffalo are, the
Yeah, the
bison.
buffalo are. Yeah.
And
So
they have a white bison out there,
do they really?
which is very cool.
Wow. It's not named Travis, right? So
I didn't see a name tag, so I'm not sure. But I thought, yeah, I've got plans to go back to
Mhm.
Botany Bend. I thought that was tremendous. And I even went to River Narrows Park.
Where's that one at?
That one's right on the river on the north edge of town of Council Bluffs. And that is strictly county access. So you have boat access into the river. And there's a pavilion out there that you can rent. And they have archery.
Is that off North 25th Street if you
Yep.
get there?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and that
Know
was,
where it's at.
there was nobody there. There was
Really?
nobody there, but there's no camping there. But it was, that's the one that is under the pot conservations. They take care of it. And it's the one that just kind of, okay, we have this too, but, and it's a great park. It's a clean park.
Uh-huh.
Has a small playground there. And I could see there being a definite value to if you had like a family gathering or something, or renting that pavilion and having it out there, and it's quiet right on the river.
I didn't realize that was a county park even. I mean, I've drove by it 100 times. I did not realize that was a county park. So I knew about the other ones. I knew about Macedonia, of course, knew about Botany Bend, knew about Hitchcock. So I mean, and then Arrowwood, Arrowhead, Arrowhead. I get, yeah, I don't, you know about them for. So, of course it's Memorial Day, so it's got to be cold, crappy, and rainy. I mean, and don't worry, I'll be hot by this weekend. That's what it's going to do. So
Yeah, sure. And I was just surprised at the lack of campers because I thought it would be packed.
Yeah.
And how much open space there was, especially at Botany Bend, because that's such a nice campground. And Old Town I can kind of see because the campsites have not been what they are now for that long. So really wasn't that many people.
That Old Town out there, I used to go fishing a lot with my youngest son. And yeah, that's kind of a neat area. And they don't get a lot of traffic either. They just don't. And like I said, they've put the new porta potties, and they've spent some money on facilities out there. So I mean, if you want to go out there and say you got all the basics now, there isn't much in Macedonia, so you better bring it, or you're gonna be driving a train or Carson or wherever to get anything if you need something. But yeah, it's kind of neat if you just want to get away and you've got like no cell service. So if you don't want to be bothered, it's a fantastic place to be. So,
and you're right. There's no like showers or the shower, the bathhouses or anything like that. Where the other parks at Botany Bend has it, Arrowhead and Hitchcock all have the flushing toilets kind of thing. So
yeah,
which makes it a little bit easier. It's not quite as roughing it where you're not going to get that at Old Town, but still, being right on the West Nishnabotna River is very, very pretty.
It is.
And
Now Hitchcock now I know with Hitchcock they bought Mount Crescent. So have they always had camping up there? I mean, I don't remember them always having, but I'm not from here. I've lived here for 30 years, but
I don't know how far back it goes
yeah,
with the campsites. I know that they're nice. They've got there's two different RV sites. One is full hookup, and
yeah,
then they just have the electric hookup. And then the Hitchcock, the tent area is a little more difficult
yeah.
because you got two options at Hitchcock. You can either hike into the general camping area, which by the way is downhill, and if you got a lot to carry, or they
Oh
have
no.
back country camping at Hitchcock. So you reserve a site and you hike in with all of your stuff.
That sounds like a you and Kyle Rainey trip, is what that
Now,
sounds.
Kyle likes to do that, but here's my problem with doing that at Hitchcock is all of the campsites sit right next to a trail. So, and they're open early and
Mhm.
people like to get out and hike early in the morning. So now you got people
Yeah.
hiking right past you, and I don't see the joy of that. So
Yeah. I'll have to ask Jeff Franco or Chad Gravy next time we're out there doing so. I'll have to ask my boy, ask him about that. So I know they've been involved with Hitchcock and do a lot of stuff out there. And like I said, Bottom, I mean, they all kind of got their points. Bottom, the one out of Hancock, Bottom, everybody forgets about that, but you can take, you do your canoeing you can rent canoes from Bottom. You can go up to Avoca. You get dropped off basically, I think about right off of 59, and I think it's about a 6 or 7 mile ride in a canoe down to there, because when we scouts we used to do that. So
it'd be very pretty.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely fun. They got some sandbars, so if you want to get off and if you got kids and they want to play and they want to do whatever, just make sure you bring a baggie for your phone and for your wallet so it don't get all wet. But yeah, it is kind of neat to ride that down there. A lot of people talk about going on the Elkhorn River over in Nebraska, but I say, yeah, if you get a chance, on a weekend. I don't know how far ahead you have to reserve it, but if I remember last time I knew they had, 10, 15 canoes out there. So I think if you had a couple groups, I think they would have quite a bit to accommodate quite a group of people. So
We're really fortunate, I think, to have the county park system that we do. And my feeling about Hitchcock Nature Center is this could be on a national registry very easily.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not even a state park.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have a place like that, just with the access that we have to it, and you can just drive up and go to the visitor center and take in the stuff that's there and stand on the deck, or they've got the lookout tower. It's beautiful. And that particular type of topography doesn't exist anywhere else in the world except in China. And China's been mining theirs. So
what do you see? So it's a lithium mine. We're shipping on to America. So give Elon his electric cars or whatever.
Right.
It is, so.
And plus I have I have this free app on my phone that identifies birds based on what the song is.
Sure.
And I've been out at Hitchcock and just hit that thing, and after a minute have a dozen different species of birds, which is kind of cool.
So when you talk, it said that you're a cuckoo bird. Is that what it says?
I don't look at that when it does it. Works pretty well though. It's a cool app. So
yeah.
So yeah, that was my Memorial weekend before, and then on Sunday out at Diane's having dinner and made some barbecue chicken.
Oh, there you go.
Attempted to make my grandmother's potato salad recipe and failed horribly.
Well, fantastic. So yeah, that's why I said that's why you follow a recipe. You don't guess at the recipe. So
I couldn't. It's not written down anywhere. And my grandmother has this thing about what she used to do with potato salad was she would boil the potatoes whole, cool them down again, and then the next day shred them. So it's a really great consistency to the potato salad. How long? I asked her one time back when she was still alive. I said, "How long do you cook those potatoes for?" And she said, "Till they're done." That's not helpful.
So did you use mayonnaise or Miracle Whip?
I used a olive oil based mayonnaise, and I also did this part about my grandmother's recipe I got right was she would cut the mayonnaise 1-to-1 with milk because she didn't like a really strong mayonnaise flavor. So by doing that, you taste more of potatoes and eggs and the other ingredients in there as opposed to what just the mayonnaise flavor.
See, in my house, this was back with this one, my grandmother and my wife's grandmother was alive. Said who had the better potato salad recipe. Went through. I talked to my grandma. She talked to her grandma and made it. Line up for line, except for one item. She liked hers with mayonnaise. I liked mine with Miracle Whip. Literally, that's what it was. It's like, I guess it's all preference. I get people that me says, "Well, what's wrong? You like Miracle Whip?" I'm like, mayonnaise sucks. I said, I'm sorry.
Listen, Miracle Whip is mayonnaise with paprika in it.
Hey, you know what? Whatever. But so let's go back to lookout towers. Have you been on that? I'm pretty sure it's a lookout tower off of it's 880 now. It used to be 680 up there. Just east of 29 on top of the hill. It's kind of like another lookout point. You ever been up to that or not?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't know what was that.
I think there's a rest stop right there. And I think there's a lookout. I think where the rest stop is, I think there's a lookout tower up there. Next time I'm up that way, I'll unless you decide to drive up there because you want to see if your Dodge can make it up there or not. But
my Dodge can make it anywhere.
Yeah. So, but there's another lookout tower, and it's got a pretty, from where it's at the top of the hill, it's got a pretty good view looking over the Missouri River across over edge to Nebraska. And I think from where it sits, you can sit down and look at Wilson Island State Park.
Okay.
And stuff off that. So, I've drove by it. We were going to do it one time, but since I know you're kind of into that stuff, it's not, I don't know. It might be considered Harrison County. I don't know, but it's right there on the county line up there. So
yeah, I didn't realize it was there. Which, by the way, Wilson Island State Park is now Wilson Island State Recreation Area.
Okay,
they took it off the state park list.
Why? Because half of it's in Nebraska.
I think because half of it just keeps getting flooded every time in the campground. Because I used to love to camp there. Huge, big sites. You're not close, and it was just getting flooded all the time. So,
yeah. So it has when you live close to a river. I know there's a certain golf course that they want to redevelop that's not getting redeveloped here, but when if you go over to the Mississippi River, I don't know how much time you spend over there. And of course, you can tell me I'm full of it too, and I wouldn't disagree. But if you go to the Mississippi River, it's almost like if you're over at Davenport and you drive up to the Butte and you follow the river road up, it's a great view. If you got time to go in the fall, it's the best time of year to do it, without a question. The houses, a lot of stuff are built. Understand with the river rising, but it's built. It's like the people understand what the river's like, and they're not building out and they're not dumping all their crap in the Mississippi. You look along the Missouri River, and there's not a lot of people talking about having their cabin home, right on the Missouri River. They might want a mile off the river or whatever, but no one says, let's put this great lookout view of the Missouri River. When they talk about TDA Ameritrain, they talk about the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge water council place. You know what they don't mention? They don't mention the view of the Missouri River right there. I don't know if you ever knew that.
Well, it's because it moves so fast. That river's moving. I think I heard it moves at 7 miles an hour, and that's why they call it the Big Muddy, because it's just constantly turning up all that silt.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. So it's speaking of which, that's where I'm headed. In 8 days, I'm going over and going to be staying for 4 days on the Mississippi. Next to the river, actually going onto the Wisconsin side, so the view will be seen back into Iowa.
Yeah,
but it'll be Lansing on the Iowa side, Ferryville on the Wisconsin side. So it's north of Prairie du Chien, about a half an hour.
So you're gonna go to the, what is it? It's not Chimney Rock. That's out in Nebraska. What is that? Where they got the caverns out right outside of McGregor in that area up there. You go to Wisconsin, they've got the caverns up there.
That I don't know, but it sounds like I need to know. It sounds cool.
I've done them before. It's been
on the Wisconsin side.
Yes, it's on the Wisconsin side. It's fairly close, within 15, 20 minutes of where you're going to be. So,
that's close enough. Yeah. I would like to get down to Pikes Peak State Park, which is awesome. The McGregor of Iowa, and that's beautiful. That's I think has the best view of any place in Iowa.
Yeah, there's a point at the south point of that campground. Was up there 2 years ago, and you look north and you look south, and with the river valley, you could see probably 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
You would see the barges, and you could see the different stuff, and you could just see the wildlife. I could have sat there all damn day and just watched it. It was pretty
all
cool.
those islands out in the middle of the river, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's just tremendous up in that area. And McGregor and Marquette are very beautiful little towns right on the river. My grandparents used to live in McGregor, so I go there quite a bit. I'd actually the Miss Marquette gambling boat is up there. I've been on that once or twice. So
the oldest restaurant in the state of Iowa. So if you're going south it's right by Pikes Peak State Park. So if you're going south, I think it's between Dubuque and there. It's right on it, and it's kind of a peak where you can look over the Missouri River. The oldest restaurant in the state of Iowa is right there. So, and the town's got like 12 people in it. I'm dead serious. Yeah. I was like, and it was actually really cool. It's in 1860s. The people dressed like it was in 1850s, 1860s. It's pretty cool. They've got a couple shops in there and whatnot. And we were on there on a Sunday night. I believe it was 7:00 at night. I feared to be dead. I bet you there was 200 people, 300 people in this place. It's like, the town's got 12 freaking people.
And they're drawn pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we spent a 3 days up there. We could have spent our 3 days up there, but something about life and work that said I had to get back home. So,
yeah, that's how it works. Well, I'm thinking that we should organize a camping trip, just get a bunch of people together and all go. I'd be all for going out and spending a weekend at Botany Bend. And
hey, I just need a plug in.
Yeah, we can do that for you.
Plug it in here.
Yeah, we got that for you. Yeah, there's great sites there, and there's, what is there, 57 sites I think at Botany Bend. Plenty of places.
Make sure you bring the bug spray because bugs do get out close to dark. So
yeah, well, that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, well, at least they're not bed bugs. So. I guess if they sleep with you, they're bed bugs, but So.
Grateful for your time as always, and look forward to doing it again.
Well, I want to congratulate myself for finishing in second place again. So we're going for it this time. So really going for it this time.
Really going for it. All right, and thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Circle of Trades. Back very soon with another episode.